Welcome to PSA. I'm Felix if you're new to the channel, and if you're back, thank you. I would love if you continue to not only return, but continue to contribute. Let's keep chatting. Let's keep sharing constructive opinions and questions in the comments. Let's invite other people to subscribe to the channel, and let's keep building a community together that is present for each other constantly. I love the idea that our conversations are making a library of resources for people no matter where they find themselves in their journey. And I love the idea that one day when I'm gone, my son Lion may be able to find some answers here thanks to a conversation that we had. Now last week, I mentioned how comparison can be the thief of joy, or it can also be a great catalyst if it's managed well. We all have an ideal scenario that we believe and we've crafted in our minds, and we've pulled it together from experiences from our past in contrast to those that we have witnessed. In this day and age, we have so much entertainment, we now find ourselves more full of other people's experiences than our own. And that happens between music, social media, news, movies, books, stories that we may have chosen to ingest. So would it not be fair to say that we are creating our vision more from comparison than from reality? Are we adding too much to the stew that we might be spoiling what we're cooking up? So I don't cook much, but I make a mean guacamole. If you don't like guac, just get creative and insert your favorite meal here. When I make guac, the main source is the avocados. I may add some tomatoes, some lime juice, some onions, some garlic. I burn the jalapenos, a little salt, some pepper, and I cool it in the fridge before I serve it. Any one of those ingredients, if I added too much of them, would ruin the guacamole except one, the avocados. That is the source of what's good in the meal. Other things that we ingest may add some seasoning to the food or inspiration to us, but what we are at our core is the most important part. In the scriptures, there's this relatable story where these two men are so caught up in what's going on that they actually are walking away from their blessing that is right in front of them. And it made me think, what if you were walking in the wrong direction and everything you were looking for was with you all along, but you were too distracted by your expectations to notice? Luke 24:13. Now that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. While these guys are only chatting about the gifts that they are missing, the gift giver was right in front of them. They are missing it because the highlight reel didn't meet their expectations. They were too busy with talking about everything else instead of what they should have already learned from it. Then they might have recognized who and what they were looking at that was standing right before them. Have you ever had something so close to you, but you only appreciated it after it was gone or you lost it? Like the reason it says God kept them from recognizing him because they needed to walk a little further along with Jesus to learn a little bit more. A blessing too soon is not a blessing at all. These two men were discussing how the tomb was empty where Jesus was buried, but still they didn't believe in what they had been taught. Did they need Jesus in a b-boy stance right in front of them? Like the tomb is empty, hands up, like, Or basking in the glory of his accomplishments, bragging like, who don't believe me now? Nowadays, what most impacts us is what impressed us on social media. What's the hot topic to protest about? Or what comment praised us and which one enraged us? Instead of noting what we already know that is God's plan and purpose for us in our lives. Last week I said, Jesus didn't come to show us how to die. He came to show us how to live. I think oftentimes we want to sit still for too long and bask in the glory of our victories, or maybe for better or worse, just talk about somebody else's. Sometimes, sadly, we're just too scared to move because how our next step might get judged and who will say what about it. Are we overlooking all we already know because it does not look like some miracle? Are we too busy comparing to create? Analysis paralysis can be real. Then Jesus says to them in Luke 24:25, how foolish you are and how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory? Their foolishness was in not believing everything they had already been taught. Their Messiah was to live a life with struggles and in the end still sacrifice himself by pouring into people constantly along the way. To no surprise, we still see that behavior today. A man's 3-year journey sharing wisdom and best practices with all the people that would listen in only about a dozen cities is the most studied period in time and in all of human history. Yet the perspective on most of the studies is still on proving the reality of his existence and the possibility of miracles, instead of the reality that his inspired choices will prove to give you the greatest life going forward. The majority of his following came after he was gone, regardless of what he did while he was here. What we learn is that every battle won rewards us with a new challenge. Every loss is wrapped up in a lesson. When our cuts close, the scar tissue is stronger than the flesh was to begin with. This story ends with these men being redirected from Emmaus to Bethany, where they're blessed by Jesus and he departs to heaven, and they return to Jerusalem to share all they have learned and their experiences. Don't miss your miracle because you can't appreciate what we have or who is already in our presence. We don't need a resurrected Christ before us to learn what the text can teach you. Do you only believe when you see something or someone else do something? Faith is not based on what we see, so stop scrolling. Faith is based on what we believe, so start creating. You don't need to witness a miracle to be one. Jesus meets us on the journey. Now, if you don't believe in God, you may think that love, peace, success is arriving somewhere, at some status, or reaching some level. But if you do believe, sometimes we may act like we only find him in the destination. But whether you're a believer or a non-believer, it's been inside you all along, and how you cultivate your life on the road will determine the results. Don't lose focus because we want to crest from mountaintop to mountaintop, just because the view is so nice, because your purpose is found in the valleys. No, nature shows us that rivers don't collect on mountaintops. We don't farm on mountaintops. More often than not, the elements make the mountaintop uninhabitable. We may celebrate the view and the accolades from the crest, but life is sustained at the foot of the mountain. The journey up builds our strength and our character for the next challenge. What I want us all to take away from this is that it's all in the journey. These highlight reels, they steal our attention. They take a lot of work and travel and editing and filters and many mistakes. It's not exactly what you see. Don't let distractions take you away from your destination, because you will never rise above your opinions of yourself. So I want us all to promise that we're not going to cave to culture, but we're going to create culture. We're going to season our God-given gifts like Salt Bay, but we're not going to spoil them with comparison or gossip or too much of someone else's spices. Just know that no one teaching ever learns less than who he's sharing it with. And that's why I always am looking forward to your comments and a chance to learn from what your take is on our chat. I hope this video found you well and in good spirits. And hopefully someone came to mind that who you could share it with. And if things are not going too well for you, my heart goes out to you, and I would love to know how I could pray for you. And maybe we can add a topic anonymously to one of our next conversations. I need you to know you're not going through these issues alone, and that is why we're better together. And we never know who we could be helping by sharing a kind word. What I do know is that we help no one if we don't try. I love you guys, and I hope to see you at the next PSA.